Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Genre Makers. I'm kind of starting to get really into this series, and it makes me think more critically about what defines a particular genre, and in a lot of ways, plot out how they've developed and evolved through the years. Hopefully you guys feel the same. That said, today I want to go into another one that I haven't really covered yet in the form of open world games. Now these aren't new. Honestly, they've been around since the early PC days in one way or another. However, in today's gaming environment, they're almost synonymous with gaming itself, with almost every game having some form of open world elements to them, or just being fully open world. It seems that we can't get enough of these types of games, or at least AAA studios would have us think that at least. However, what were some of the earlier examples? What game really formed the kind of open world space that we have today? Well, let's take a look at a handful of them, and one that I think rightfully so has the credit for the most influence on open world games as we know them today. Now, what is an open world game? Well, that can actually mean a few things. For some, it means something like Microsoft Flight Simulator, where the entire world is just open for you to fly around in. However, outside of just taking off, flying, and landing, there really isn't that much to do. That's the whole point of it. For more, you need to look at something that's more commonly called a sandbox game. Now, these games include attributes where the world will respond to the actions from a player, something we've talked about before, known as emergent gameplay, which simply means that basic actions the player does result in a response from the game that seems realistic and believable based off the simulation presented. Basically, the game responds to what you did in a way that makes sense inside that world, right? It's important to note that not all open world games are sandboxes, and not all sandboxes are open worlds. How is a sandbox not an open world, you say? Well, that depends on the design. A sandbox could be built in more one-stage layout, where you have a limited space and many things to collect and interact with, and side quests that you can do, but its space is limited and not entirely open. The entire world isn't open to you. Now, just a small section of it at a time, basically, right? Simple enough. It's true, more of them tend to be open worlds, especially today, but that's not always the case. Where do these start though? Well, that's a bit open for debate. So let's go into a handful of examples, shall we? The first is a game called Elite. No, not Elite Dangerous. That's a newer game. The original Elite was released in 1984. This worked much like the newer game in that you could explore various different star systems, fight various different space pirates, or be one yourself. You could trade goods, take on military missions, you name it. This definitely made it a sandbox type game, as you have multiple activities and reactions to your various different endeavors. Even if each star system you explored only had one location to visit, it still fit most of the bill. Another example of this is Legend of Zelda, which is sort of a proto-open world sandbox, as you could really explore the entire world and find various different secrets and dungeons, playing them in any order you chose. However, it had limited side activities that you could actually engage with outside of looking for secret areas and finding various different dungeons to complete your main quest. These games, however, would be inspirations for future games like Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, Grand Theft Auto 3 actually put all the pieces together, fleshing out a world with a myriad of random different activities that the player could do at almost any time they wanted to do them, a coherent, overarching storyline, and tons of opportunities for emerging gameplay, and a fully traversable world that made this pretty much the final blueprint of an open world game. This game, when it came out, was a massive hit, allowing players to steal cars, fight police, take side jobs for extra money, or just see side stories in general. They could go on a full-on city rampage and see how long it took for the cops to catch up with them, or just take a leisurely cruise. It was far more than any other game had allowed anyone to do before, and it would only start the ball rolling on making subsequent games bigger and bigger. Its success would ensure that more games come out that tried to replicate this kind of success, with Saints Row, Fallout, Elden Ring, and one of my favorites, Ghost of Tsushima, giving players almost unlimited freedom to explore the game's world as they chose. Today, the majority of games include some, if not all, elements of both open world games and sandbox games to give players the value for their money that they've actually come to expect. However, what do you guys think of these kinds of games? Are you a fan of open world and sandbox games, or do you prefer a more linear, simpler affair? Do you think too much time and money is invested on the size of the world and not enough intangible things that make the worlds meaningful? Do you prefer more story-based driven games or quick action games that are more concise? Which open world game is your favorite if you like these at all? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, if you don't mind, please leave this video a like. And if you see more of my content and you like possibly some of the stuff on the screen, consider following the channel. That helps me out a ton. Until we meet again though, thank you so much for watching and happy gaming.